purpose of this video is to explain what is included in the additional resources for Martin Bright's piece for ukulele and glockenspiel, Water number 20. Once the payment has gone through, you will receive a link to a Dropbox folder where you can download the resources. So these comprise a Midi file with tempo and glockenspiel information, and two audio files, a mono audio click track and a stereo audio recording of the glockenspiel part as it's played by Lee Ferguson on the CD, The New Classical Ukulele. Now you will obviously need a Digital Audio Workstation or DAW to make good use of these resources, but it doesn't need to be a sophisticated one. A basic DAW like Garageband would be fine, for example, but if you want to separate the audio to send a click to headphones and the audio out to speakers, you will need a sound card as well. Now, firstly, download the resources. So it's just a question of clicking them and downloading them. So here it comes as a zip file, which I double click on, and it will unpack it into a folder called Water number 20. All DAWs are different, so slightly different procedures will be required. So this is an empty project in Digital Performer. You can see up here we've got a sample rate of 44.1 kilohertz, which is the suggested sample rate for this project. Now, first of all, I'm going to show you how to make use of the Midi information. You need to import the Midi file, which in Digital Performer we do through the file and import settings, but as I say, this will be different depending on the Digital Audio Workstation you have. I'm going to import this Midi file, which is on my desktop, so it's here in this folder, and you see mid is the Midi file. Now in Digital Performer, this automatically creates a sequence, which is called a chunk. It's just Digital Performer's way of naming it. So you can see this is what we've imported, and this is what it does. Here is the Midi file. If I double click on it, you can see the Midi notes, and they all have their volumes attached. If I go to the conductor track, basically this is the meter information. So we've got here starting 7/8. If you've already looked at the score, you'll know this. There's fairly regular changes by section of meter, and they're all in the conductor track. The other thing that's in the conductor track is the tempi. So this changing line here represents the tempi, and you see that we've sort of engineered it so between the sections there's a slight change, a slight decelerando, which makes it much easier to move from one section to the other. In any DAW, you're going to have to assign this Midi information to a sound, and there are lots of different ways that you might do that. So I'm just going to quickly do this in Digital Performer. I do that by adding an instrument track. I'm using a sample instrument which is called Contact, and I'm going to add a mallet instrument. My mallet instrument, which is glockenspiel. Just go to the default glockenspiel for now. So we just need to tell the Midi track here that we want to go to Contact, and now we can play the glockenspiel part. If I bring the glockenspiel up again in Midi, there we have it. So obviously, to make good use of this, you will require the metronome. So let's take the volume down of that, otherwise it drive everyone crazy. I think it's really important to have two sounds on the metronome. So you have a first beat of the bar, which sounds different, particularly in this piece because you're changing from 7/8 to 5/8 to 3/8, and it's really important to know where the first beat of the bar is. So having set up the metronome, you're now in a position to play the piece. You've got 2-bar counting in 7/8, and then the ukulele starts actually bar 3, and after that you can follow it through. I just want to take you through to this point so you can hear the change of section there with the decrescendo, and as I say, you can see that graphically if you want to go to the conductor part here. I'll just make that a bit bigger if I can. So this is that, it's just through 1 bar that you get this change of tempo and then the new tempo coming in. We've ignored the pauses pretty much. I mean, this kind of suggests a little bit of a pause, but it would have just made things overcomplicated, I think. But anyway, let me tell you what I would do with this. I mean, if you've got the piece up to full speed, then you can practice it with this, and that's absolutely great for practicing coordination. And if you're going to go on and play it with a real percussionist, then you know when you get to that first rehearsal, you're really well prepared, you know what he or she is playing, and you're very confident of how everything fits together. However, if you're more in the learning stages, this is what I would do. I would create a number of sequences. And again, different doors will be different, but in Digital Performer, you can duplicate this sequence. Now, if I then go to the new sequence, so this is exactly the same, and I go to the conductor information, what I would do is to drag down, here we are, let's drag down the tempi. So my starting tempo is now 110, it's telling me up here, and we can just check that. And obviously everything is slowed down. You'll hear the glock part in a minute. So I would save this as water number 20. Here we go. Water number 20, copy. So it's going to, and then I just put the tempo in here, 110. And I might create 5 or 6 of these tracks at different tempi to start with. And then you don't need to mess around when you open the program. It's already there, and you can just select the tempo that you're working on. I certainly don't suggest practicing with this all the time, but it's more like you do this perhaps every few weeks, or depending on how hard you're practicing, I guess, every few weeks, just to see how you're getting on and to make sure that everything is synchronizing properly. So that's how I'd make use of the MIDI track. Now I'm going to show you how to make use of the audio track, which is really as a finishing product. Now, in some DAWs, you may need to open a new file to do this. In Digital Performer, you can just do it with a new sequence. So I'm just going to call this water number 20 audio files. So obviously with an audio file, you can't change the tempo in the same way, and it's not intended to be used in the same way. This is really for when the piece is finished. So you either want to use it for your own satisfaction with a recording of a percussionist, a very good percussionist, or you want to actually use it in performance. So I'm just going to get rid of this MIDI file because that's how it defaults. And I'm going to open a mono audio file for the click track and a stereo audio file. In fact, I prefer those in the other order for the vibraphone part. Now, first of all, you have to import the audio. So again, might be slightly different. So they come up here, they're called sound bites in Digital Performer. Either of these will do. You just drag that in, and this is the glockenspiel, drag that in. And if I double click on these, you can see them in the sequence part of the program. So let's make this one certainly a little bit bigger and drag that down. So we can see here the click very clearly, and this is the waveform of the glockenspiel part. So if I play a little bit of this, here's your 2 bars count in, and this is. Now I want to just take it forward, and again you can hear the change of section here. So this rallentando is obviously designed to help you achieve a transition to the new tempo, and is also very musical. And this tracks exactly how Lee Ferguson played it on the CD. Now, what you would have to do for a performance is obviously route this audio information to the appropriate place. What we want to do is we want to send the click track out through the headphones. So this will be a question of sending that to the appropriate place, wherever that is. I've got a fairly small sound card, but it's got 6 outputs, so I've got a choice there. Obviously it's not going to be 1 or 2 because that's my stereo out. So perhaps I send it to 3, and that's the port where I plug in my headphones. And then you can hear your glockenspiel part through your stereo, and in your headphones you're going to hear the click. So that's going to sync everything together. So all you need to do now is to balance out the volume, and there you are. You're ready to perform Water number 20.